All right, 30-second warning, Councilman Davis. Oh, good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call the City of Homestead City Council Workshop to order. Today's Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and it is 5:02 p.m. We have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Cannibal? Here. Councilman Roth? Here. Councilman Davis?
Here.
Mayor Losner?
Here. Hey, very good. We have a quorum. Thank you, and thank you all in the audience for coming tonight. Is the Vice Mayor online? No? Okay. Our one order of business tonight is car number 4432, and it is the updated report on the charrette that we held back in May, I believe. Mr. Manager?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight, we intend to focus more on the report of the workshop, the visionary workshop, that was held between April 1st through April 4th this year, wherein the council, the administration, and members of the public, the development community, residents, institutions, and corporate bodies within the district, within the Homestead jurisdiction boundary, facilitated interactive engagement, focusing on the future aesthetics, development patterns, overall design of 4 key districts within the city of Homestead, in order to create a design that will identify neighborhood challenges and opportunities that will contribute to a shared vision for future development. The workshop assessed the feasibility of incorporating these ideas into actionable policies and potential updates. Tonight, the Mayor and Council will be, together with the community, is going to be reviewing the report from the consultant, Eric Valle, who is going to be coming up soon to the podium to present on the findings and conclusions of that interactive workshop, as well as the council will be seeking, the administration will be seeking council advice and direction on how to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Valle, are you ready? We are.
That's fine. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Good evening, Council. Good evening, Council person and Mayor, and the audience here with us. Before you, what I'm presenting is going to be is the actual booklet that was put together for the charrette itself. There was multiple organizations and individuals that participated, all that are mentioned within the charrette booklet. The charrette itself encompassed 4 study areas, everything from the Civic Center, which is here where we are now, to the north of us would be towards Campbell Drive, would be the 2nd District. Let me learn how to use this thing. The Campbell District, which is here, and I'll mention those, show those in a moment. We studied each of the different areas. For example, this is the Civic, what I call the Civic East District, which is everything that's east of us on the other side of Flagler here. And within it, we studied not only the amount of lands that's available, which, by the way, is somewhere in the 35 to 40%, and a lot of it encompasses entire blocks. We looked at the existing land use, existing zonings, within each of these study areas. Here's, for example, the Campbell Drive area. And here is the Chrome Avenue area, for example. And in that one specifically, we understand that it's part of a historic corridor, so we try to understand what buildings were actually contributing historically. And there's some buildings that date back to 1914 to the present. We stopped at 1956, and then the rest we didn't feel were contributing. And all of this is very important in the process. Where we are now, City Hall. The way we work is that after the charrette, we went back and we looked at multiple cities around the country to try to understand how many cities around the country, for example, in Texas, Virginia, California, places that were similar to the scale of what we were proposing for this area from what we analyzed. Then we went ahead and identified places that are familiar to most of you that you can go and travel and see it, like City Place, of course, downtown Kendall, and Meisner Park. The charrette itself was held between April 1st and the 4th. And in the charrette, we went ahead in each of the study areas, we identified with the citizens in multiple different ideas that they wanted to make sure were possible within the civic centers. For example, bring public art to the Civic Plaza. That's one example. Line the streets with trees, and multiple other things. Here, for example, is in Chrome Avenue. Bring public art to Chrome Avenue. One of the citizens suggested it would be nice to see art along Chrome Avenue that maybe is coordinated with the Art Basel show, and people can come here and see that exhibition here as well. In the East Civic District, the introduction of the diversity of residential densities was something that was discussed. As well as the fact that it is next to the college, so we looked at senior housing, student housing, and other kinds of uses that can happen within that area. This was what came out of that charrette. This was the actual master plan itself that was produced during the charrette itself, and then post-charrette, we went ahead and began to analyze it in terms of its location to each of the different busways, and we found that actually, it's within a quarter mile of each of the busways, which interprets to about a 5-minute walk, and basically encompasses the entire study area. The study area itself is 245 acres, is what we ultimately studied. We also looked at the RTPO, the Rapid Transit Development Overlay District that is around the busways, analyzed what they're proposing, and did a comparison in terms of their thresholds and what we felt were the goals that the community want for itself around those busways. We looked at the circulation in terms of the greens and trees and alignments of that. We also looked at when we integrated the project into the purple representing a new network of roads, everything was all interconnected with each other that allowed a very easy network of roadways through the project. Another element of it, of course, was the ability of walkability. Make it something that's really walkable, so all the yellow represents actually all the different sidewalks and paths. So you can see, and by the way, this is something that, this city is 111 years old, I believe, and this is the pattern of development that the city started with. And all we're doing is replicating and enhancing what was there before. In the process, we identified that if a certain kind of pattern of development that we're proposing, there's the existing parking garage that's next to the police station here, and then we propose other future garage station areas that would be in support of the kind of urban pattern that we're proposing for the overall project. Then, of course, what we did is, I'm a new urbanist, many of you know me, so we have a little checklist of things that we're always, it's important to us, transportation, sustainability, and so forth. We make sure that all of those are checked off. So what we did, unlike many other charrette type projects, we didn't just took and say, here's the code, here's an overlay ordinance, and here's what the code may look like. We actually built an entire 3D model of the whole study area. So we're actually visualizing in 3D what the entire study area may look like. So what you're looking at is the model itself that we made available to all the consultants of the city that shows exactly what the development may look like 20, 30 years out from now. And I can tell you this because I've been the planner for Coral Gables and Delray Beach and many other places, and it's taken 20 years to see it evolve like where it is today. So the purple represents the civic or government buildings. The rest of it is the rest of the development that we're proposing. When we look closely, again, at different ideas, what we did is we actually, sorry, I'm backing up here. We actually also went ahead and started building three-dimensional models. So we started printing out some of the models of the overall to show. I mean, in my mind, if you take this and build it all out, you'd probably be building a 10 by 15 display of what the future intent of what we want here in the city. During the charrette itself, we talked about a lot about the 15-minute city, the concept of the city within the city, of having all these different accessibilities, making it very walkable. We also, during the charrette, looked at many different districts as well as study areas. For example, the corner of Chrome and Campbell, showing you there's the existing lake that's there now, and we showed you how massing that was in support of the kind of planning that we would like to see that can go on that lot itself. We also looked at the lot next door, which is the 20-acre shopping mall, which we go by there, we can see it's half of it is empty, and what the potential of that one would be. Another element that we did is when we were studying the actual blocks of Chrome, they're very long, so one of the concepts that we had was to try to break up the block in the middle and at certain strategic locations to create these parcels. And here we showed demonstrated during the charrette how those parcels may actually evolve and create actually more real estate frontage for those blocks. And in the process, as we started analyzing other cities, we realized that in the city of West Palm Beach, they actually already had this code in place that talks about what it takes to build those kinds of parcels, those kinds of passageways through there. And so it's very exciting. Another element of this area that we looked at is the idea that we have the city hall and try to create much more urban, because this is a very large green here, and try to create much more urban areas throughout the civic district itself. For example, as you come off of US 1 and you're coming into the city hall, this would be like a great location. The building to the left there would be one of the public garages that we talked about, and possibly even more offices that the city may need eventually over time. Across the way on the other side, we talked about the idea of bringing some kind of family-oriented art in public places kind of thing that would invite people to come there. I'm going to move on now to the main street, to Chrome Avenue. Looked at that real closely. Again, here we noticed, and it was mentioned during the charrette, that really you should not have office uses at the ground level because they're not very conducive to bring people to the street. And so, as we did at Delray Beach, the idea is to actually take streets as they are now, buildings, and what I did is I opened them up in the corner and create these corner conditions that allow outdoor eating. Here's the idea again of the public art being distributed along Chrome Avenue. It begins to kind of change that whole character. Another element we're suggesting is the idea of introduced parklets, so that as this evolves over time, allow the people that are renting the area to be able to take over the parallel parking and create these outdoor venues to really see and introduce and excite the government, excite the public to really come and use the spaces. Loud outdoor merchandising is another element we talked about in the short booklet itself, how the outdoor merchandising should be handled. All of that is part of that report, as well as, again, looking at here's an example of something that was done during the charrette. We looked at one of the empty lots on Chrome. Somebody did a sketch of what this may look like, and then we went ahead and just began to model it, to begin to understand that more so opening it up, having outdoor seating, you need regulations for how all of that is handled, and all of that is suggested within this booklet that we provided you. Again, here, the idea of creating those open areas that they connect from Chrome Avenue to Washington Avenue to City Hall. Here's what our streets and sidewalks can look like on Chrome Avenue itself. With, of course, that sidewalk width is actually the width of the sidewalks today. I didn't increase it. All I did is get rid of some of that, planters that are there today and replace them with more, something that was more viable and much more interesting, I thought. Some of you, I know the consultants worked on Clementis Street in West Palm Beach, and that was the example that I used to try to suggest what we can do to Chrome Avenue as well. Raise it, pave it, bring it to the level, bring the paving up to the level of the sidewalks, and be able to start creating this really wonderful, memorable kind of spaces that I think just recently won an award, by the way. I think Victor mentioned it yesterday. Again, the parklets, we measured the sections of the sidewalks to make sure that we can accommodate, as we've done in Delray Beach, outdoor seating. Another aspect of the project is you've got these large green areas right here between Flagler and the busway that are owned by the city. And the suggestion is that that would become a great entertainment district. There was talks in the past about a brewery. Well, why not bring in and create something much more interesting there? Have some shelter come in, have some food trucks allowed there, and then some benches, and all of a sudden people begin to identify it as being the entertainment district, which is something I think would be very exciting for the area. Another thing about the East District is where you have currently 2 hotels, and really, after conversations with everybody, it was clear that there's actually a need and maybe a desire for a convention type of hotel, and that would be actually a great location if we place it on that East District. I place it in the corner here because you have the busway. People can come, go to the busway, and we recognize Homestead as being a location to 3 major parks, right? The Keys, the Everglades, and the Biscayne Bay. And this really would be a great location that could attract a lot of different people to come to this area. Back onto the East District itself, I'm going kind of fast here. Back on the East District itself, we, during the charrette, produced some of these imagery to suggest, again, the kind of atmosphere that we're talking about, an urban pattern that is viable and possible there. We also talked about diversity of housing from a 6-story to 3 to 4 to 3 stories, and how all of that would work within this kind of pattern that can accommodate it. At the end of the day, it's an overlay ordinance over these 245 acres. Each one of those are different districts that are distinct in terms of incentives, from parking to what they're permitted within each one of those. Here I took one example. Here, for example, is the Main Street and the urban center, Main Street I call it, which is Chrome Avenue. There we suggested an urban pattern where we talk about heights and placements and frontages and sidewalks, and I want everybody to know I'm an architect that is, we practice a lot of projects, and trust me, I do this. When I do these things, I think about myself as an architect, how I can do and build in those areas. We also developed the street sections for those, and then created these urban codes. This is a pattern that's more visual and it's more clear and simple in terms of saying, if you're in this urban district, these are your heights, these are your setbacks or building forms that are permitted. These is where the parking would be allowed, within the encroachments, what kind of things are allowed to be encroached, and what percentages within each of the districts. Architectural styles, we talked a little bit, suggested within the pattern, within our booklet, complementary styles of architecture, from a Florida modern type of architecture to others that we felt would be complementary to each other. So if it all gets built out over time within a certain vocabulary, it may actually be something that's very cohesive, will make it very interesting as a community. Later on, towards the end, everybody. Later on, I talk about within each of the districts what distinguishes them, what are the redevelopment opportunities, what strategies need to be taken, what should happen in the first 2 years, what should happen over the next 10 years, what happens over the next 20 years. And for example, immediately adopt the master plan, then we'd have to come in and do some comprehensive plan amendments and LDR regulations, put all this on the website, let the development community know what pattern and what the city wants for itself, follow the pattern that's being proposed, and you will get approvals a lot quicker, right? That's what we all want to hear. It's the top push out there. And so here's strategies again, pilot projects. I did mention 3 pilot projects real quickly. I'm saying something as basic as taking the existing parking lot that's right here now. I think it'd be very cool if it's raised and a mural goes on there that kind of reflects the culture of the area, right? The farming, something that people would love to take photos, bring art in public places idea. But ultimately, there every weekend should be identified as a place where you do farming and you do the wine and food parties, you do the events when the cars are here, you do the art shows. Here again is the idea of taking that piece of land that's owned by the city that has some environmental issues that needs to be addressed. But let's put up a stage, let's allow some food trucks, bring some benches, and invite bands to come and play. And I'm telling you that as the community as a whole, the 87,000 people that live in this community, we're going to be able to understand that this is kind of where what they've been missing was have. And I also mentioned, of course, another pilot project is already thrown out, and there's ideas going there. I get into different funding sources that are out there, and ultimately my goal and my hope is that, that we let the rest of the city, the rest of the community in the world understand, this is to rediscover Homestead, rediscover its location, rediscover it for its foods, and rediscover it for the fact of all these activities that are happening now and that are forthcoming, as well as really a place where a lot of people would want to live, work, and play.
Thank you. We've come a long way since we sat across the street for a few days back in May. Council doesn't mind, I know we have several property owners and business owners that fall within one or more of these categories, and I would like to give them the opportunity first to come forward and ask any questions or address any concerns they may have with where we are at this point before we go any further on the path of moving forward. And I appreciate those. I see several who are here in the audience tonight, and we need you here each and every time we take another step forward in this process to take control of our destiny rather than let others come in and control the narrative. So, who wants to be the first to the microphone? Don't squirm in your seat. Come on. No. Pull the mic down so you.
Okay.
There we go.
Hello, council and audience. My name is Michelle Pedersen. My husband and I own the property and business at 406 Washington Avenue. And we've been operating, owners operating that retail store for 24 years. I stand in this magnificent Washington County architectural building. Does that remember? We fought for. I always believed that presence of a beautiful building was literally the heartbeat of the downtown area. And here we are many years later, for those of us that invested in and give their time and energy and have seen so many different hopes and some progress. You take 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, and just now wanting to see something actually come to fruition. And I thank you for this beautiful presentation we did. It was amazing. I've traveled all over the world. I've had that privilege and have seen cities throughout America, these historical like Homestead, and one in particular that I have a big heart for just because it's where my daughter went to college, happened to be a historical city named Wheaton outside in Illinois. And it's a population of about 55,000 people. But what they've done in this historical town to revitalize it and, you know, keeping the old but merging with the new and bringing new energy and new vitality there is that they've invested in amazing parks. Here's the city, and it has over 55 parks alone. And you just see young people, you know, come from all these other cities to just enjoy the parks in the city of Wheaton. What I see missing, and I unfortunately wasn't present, I was out of town in the April meetings. I would love to have been there. I see a lot of cement in those plans. And I also don't see the professional building. I know that we have a beautiful college, but college spend money, really. They don't, unless they get it from their parents. And senior citizens are on a limited budget. And what's missing is a professional presence in this town. And that's one thing Wheaton had. It had two big professional buildings. And so you see a professional presence there and people then staying after hours. And I've always hoped that. I've always envisioned that happening. Those who have had the privilege to go to Millennium Park in downtown, where they have the iconic cloud gate done by that famous architectural design gentleman, I forgot his name, Arpour, to have not just a mural, but a piece of art, which I know I'm excited about seeing that in the plans, but to have something that iconic that would draw people from all over the world, not just, you know, Miami-Dade. Let's do that. Oh my goodness. And do a entrance that way instead of, I mean, I have mixed feelings about that old City Hall site. I mean, there's so much you can do. I don't know how many acres it is, but I know Millennium Park's a little over 20 acres. But where they have a fun art kids park meshed with the beam, meshed with a amphitheater for, you know, concerts. And also, one other thing is on my wish list, being that I grew up in Houston, the Southernmost Rodeo, right? Okay, why don't we do a mixed-use arena and have an indoor really cool rodeo? We have NASCAR, right? We're going to get that championship race back, God willing. What goes with NASCAR? Country. So let's think big. Let's think, you know, life. And like it said, Homestead, discover Homestead. Let's be different from what's happening to Coral Gables. Oh my gosh, you go down US 1, it's all these cement flat roofs with flat awnings, and they're, I don't know how many stories high. We don't want that look. Let's not duplicate that look. Let's be the Williamsburg, the Wheaton, the Santa Barbara, and people will come from all over because we're so different. Anyways, that's all I gotta say. And no more daycares and cash carry stores in downtown. We don't need more of that.
Thank you. Right.
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. My name is is Jean-Paul Cadot. We own Yardy Spice, Cozy Greens, and the Fish Market on Chrome Avenue. I don't have any questions, but I am very excited for all the work that the local government involved in and to make Homestead a beautiful place. And hopefully one of these days I'll see on the news, City of Homestead is the best city in Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, JP. Thanks for coming. Anyone else in the audience or online? Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Council. How are you? And good evening, congregation. My name is Ruth Burles, and I am not an owner of anything here yet, but I am a young adult that grew up in Homestead since forever. My parents were immigrants and came from Haiti, and they've been living here for 30-plus years. And when we had the first charrette meetings, I was super excited about it, and I just moved back from Orlando and was planning to leave to go somewhere else to continue more education and do things. And after seeing the charrette and after seeing what's here today, I have decided officially that I will stay here in Homestead. And I want that not to just be for me as a young adult, but I want to, I guess this is my question, how soon can I get involved into what's going on so that I can encourage more young people that have went away to college and that said, Homestead doesn't have anything going on, or there's not, much going on here. How can we really move on with that process so that we can bring more people back home and attract more people here? So thank you so much for the presentation. It was amazing. Thank you guys for your time. And so I'm ready to jump in whenever you guys are ready for me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Mr. Manager, Council. I'm Julio Fajon, the owner of the historic Hotel Redland, and I welcome this change. As you guys know, about 18 months ago, I took the hotel over. I think I've made great changes for the community, a place of gathering, a place of comfort food, and great stays. So I welcome this change. I thank you all for the hard work that you guys have put together with this, and hopefully we can get other business owners on board to join us in the success of Homestead. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Julio.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Albert Milo, President of Relate Urban. Just want to applaud for taking the first step of trying to lay out a vision for the different redevelopment areas of the city. As you know, we've been working with you for a little bit of time, but hopefully we're getting closer to that. But it's important for you to have that vision and lay out that vision in order to attract capital, right? Just from Julio, who came and invested in one of the earlier businesses there, and capital and momentum brings more momentum. So it's important to have some type of blueprint, some type of layout for how you envision your city's growth and how people want to come and invest in your city. So I applaud you for taking that effort.
Thank you. Anyone else? Are we sure? Is that it? Right. So let me ask staff. I'll direct this, I guess, to Mr. Hennis and Mr. Valle. What do you need from council tonight in response to this initial presentation?
I believe what we're looking for is clarity of direction. Is this the right direction that you see the city taking? Efforts to implement that vision by creating some standards that will be followed such that the pieces won't be broken before we really start. Creating some standards of, since we're under a moratorium, we have the unique opportunity to really set in stone some code changes, revisions, and things like that that really deal with the things that are probably going to be harmful for the charrette and its implementation if we don't make good decisions at the very beginning. So I think first and foremost is just setting the stage that this is what you're looking for and adopting the plan or something along those lines that gives us some mechanisms to be able to bring back to you what standards we can put in place that really secures it in a lot of ways.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Manager, anything to add from that?
I think the consultant, Mr. Eric Valle, did a fantastic job. If you look at pages 55 through 57, 58, he laid out a template of what we're expecting council to consider tonight, perhaps in subsequent meetings. The initial step is simply to adopt the charrette or direct staff to come back with a proper resolution for the adoption. And the second option is to amend the city's comp plan that will address the charrette master plan as part of the city's comp plan. These are some of the very initial steps that needs to be taken in order for us to facilitate subsequent actions. There are so many things that we need to follow, such as the land development regulations that the consultant needs to work with the department as well as the city attorney's office to flesh them out, and we come back in terms of perhaps adopting a form-based code provision for our code. Thank you.
Okay, Council? Councilwoman Avila.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for guiding us in this process. Thank you to our consultant. From our very first meeting, you have been all ears and willing to accept all kinds of ideas and recommendations and criticism, so thank you for that. Specifically, what I love about the plan is that it is all-encompassing. I don't think that we're leaving out any details, really. The paseos are quite beautiful and welcoming. The pocket parks and the parklets are going to serve many. As Mrs. Pedersen said, those are so needed in our community. The pedestrian experience is by far way overdue. We really need to improve the experience of those who we are inviting to visit our downtown. And of course, robust landscaping and convention centers and meeting spaces. These are all things that we can look forward to through this visioning charrette. I'm ready to support the adoption of the comp plan, the resolution, so I don't think that there's any reason to delay it further. And of course, as time goes by, if we need to make amendments, we can certainly do so. But I think that we have done a great job as a team, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like everybody else, I've also, been living here in the downtown 16, almost 17 years now, and just always envisioned that walkability, having the sidewalk cafes. So as a resident before I even ever thought of council, I can definitely put myself in other shoes as well, and just really be excited for all of Homestead for this. I think that as we go, obviously, we will have more great ideas. Every little piece that we can hold on to that really screams Homestead is something that we have to embrace and make sure is a big focus. I do love the idea of a monthly or weekly farmers market and have that be a huge wow piece, whether it be a sculpture or a mural or a sculpture coming out of a mural. That is something that Homestead will always be. It'll always be something healthy for the community. So I think that for me is a huge piece that I want to make sure is perfect. And if there is a way that we can tie the rodeo in as well, start thinking of some other uses for that building when the rodeo is not practicing. But yeah, there's horse therapy. I'm already thinking. So yeah, I love it. I think one question that I didn't ask you, Mr. Valle, before is when you discuss different architectural types, is that something that would be a mix, or is that something like as developments come, we would consider to see what fits best where?
remember, when it comes to the LDRs and the comp plan, that's not going to exist in any of that language. The idea of the pattern book is something that would govern you all during the process of when projects start coming in. They're all following this specific kind of architectural ideology. That's really what that's doing. And by the way, I grew up in Chicago, so I'm very familiar with the beam. The only reason I didn't suggest a beam was because it costs as much as this building. That's why I go, y'all kill me. I'll do a little mural. Sorry.
We can still dream, right? We need to aim for the stars. All right, no, thank you. That's all that I have for now.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Councilwoman. Councilman Roth?
Thank you, Mayor. So this has been a work in progress, and Eric and your staff and our staff that's worked together and to put this together it's been very inclusive of all of us, and the plan is good. I think when you start talking about the little entertainment center of the vacant land that we own right here off of Flagler, and putting in a bandstand there as well, then you'll have two competing areas. Like Losner Park already has a bandstand and has the ability to do some things like that. So as we develop these areas, I think it's going to be important that staff has a role in monitoring the activities that are produced in those areas too. So in other words, the type of entertainment we bring in. Because I always thought that Losner Park would be awesome for, jazz weekends or pop weekends or country weekends, and programming those activities so the community would experience those quality of life ideas that you're talking about, right? So the entertainment district over here on Flagler. So when we had talked about developing the old City Hall property, we talked about the competition between that location and what we were trying to inspire in downtown Homestead. So there's plenty of room for everybody, as long as there's programming in place as well to help guide the activities. So I think that would be something that staff would have to work on as far as that goes. So at one point, the city had an overwhelming number of parks versus the population, and it's reversed over time, where we have less parks than we do where the need is for the residents in the city. I know we're working on the Homestead Regional Park out east, which once we bring that up, it's going to relieve a lot of some of those anxieties of having open space for residents to participate in. But inside of the Charette area, aside from Losner Park and aside from the future entertainment district, as you call it, are there any other parks planned within that vicinity, that 245 acres? We have JD Red that's already there, so enhancements to those and things that continue to bring quality of life into that 245-acre piece.
Right. What I didn't get into, because time is the amount of green that you actually have within the area itself. But no, we did not plan for additional parks, because there was plenty of big parks already around. But we always thought about it in terms of being able to be enhanced and improved upon. That's kind of the thinking of it. And keep in mind, as I think Commissioner Aviva mentioned it to me a long time ago, is it's okay to have multiple destination points within a city. That's what makes it exciting. That's when you go to a city, you don't just go down to one main street, then you go down, the next day you go to another place, and you can have that. And that's really pretty much what the whole idea and concept is. Let's give ourselves more opportunities and more places for people to come to. This is what I've been doing forever.
Great, thank you. So I'd like, you can have a seat if you don't mind. I'd like to ask Mr. Milo to come up for a second, because he's an expert in developments, and I've always wondered, with the amount of development that's already in the Charette area, it's going to take investors with vision to buy up properties that are already developed in some cases, to create this vision that has been created by the Charette. So you already mentioned that you think it's a good idea to have the plan in place. What do you feel about the marketing aspects of, once we put this in place, opportunities for the city to go out and market the fact that now that we've put this in place, developers will come here and begin to look at purchasing properties. Some will be, demolished and then rebuilt. What do you think about that part of it?
Well, as I stated previously, investors don't like uncertainty, right? If you're going to invest your capital, you're going to try to invest your capital with some level of certainty. So at least if you have a plan in place, there's something for the investment community to understand kind of where the city's starting point is at, right? Doesn't mean that everybody's going to buy in 100% to every aspect of the plan. But conversely, if you have no plan, then capital is gonna be hesitant to come. So I think it's a good starting point to at least that the council is now taking the air and starting to think about what type of activities, what type of density, what type of height, what type of uses, what type of green spaces you're gonna have. So from that perspective, I think it's a step in the right direction.
Well, that reinforces some of my thoughts I had too, that once we have this in place, and we've worked very hard to get to this point, that it's kind of like build it and they'll come, right? And that's kind of what we're trying to do, is build the foundation for the charrette area so that they'll come and explore the city of Homestead and then begin to put the vision that the charrette put in place for the future. Because in reality, it's going to take 10, 15, 20 years, as Mr. Valle said, to get to that point. But it's the plan that's in place. So hopefully that's where we go.
Yeah, without a plan, it's kind of very ad hoc, right?
Understand. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Davis?
Thank you, Mayor. And again, congratulations and thanks to our council, our staff, and the community and our planner. I mean, this was a great effort. One of the things that I very much appreciate as you look over this plan is its sustainability. So frequently, there'll be a great plan, and then all this money and effort goes into it, but it just kind of washes out because there's not enough residential, there's not enough room for business, what have you, ultimately to survive. This plan is very good, I think, to have that intelligent mix of residential and small business and the parking issues that we've had downtown forever. All of us remember all the businesses, the restaurants that come and go down Chrome Avenue. And a lot of the problem is they just can't pull enough people in, on a regular basis. So I think this is great. And City Manager, with your plan of improving the infrastructure down Chrome is awesome, because that's going to feed directly into this project and allow those businesses to open up and perform effectively. So I think I agree with my colleagues. I think this is a great plan and ready to move forward.
Thank you. Councilman Cannonball? Councilwoman Alvarez?
Thank you. I just have a few follow-up points. It really is nice to have residents and business owners and investors here giving their opinion. And I think that we should take advantage as much as possible to continue that trend and keeping the community involved. And I would like to see, once this is finalized and made a reality for our city, that we have some kind of 3D model in our lobby. We have a lot of space out there in the lobby, and I think that it'll just keep the conversation going. It'll continue to make it top of mind, and it really will, create the buzz and talk of town amongst the people who want to stay or come back or invest. And even when they're coming in to, pull a small permit for their fence, let's say, that might give them some inspiration to open a business in downtown. You never know. So having a 3D model, and I hope we'll get a discount, Mr. Valle. We've been working with you for a long time. And I wanted to say, if we codify it, they'll come, right? I think that's, at the end of the day, we got to make it code, or else who are we kidding? It just will never happen. So thank you. I'll rest there.
Okay, so.
Mr. Mayor, point of information. So we do have a couple of consultants here with us that has been forwarded into the plan for this charrette. The consultants are Kimley Horn, that's handling the citywide transportation master plan, as well as CES, the consultant that is handling the water and wastewater master plan as well for the city. They've already met with Mr. Valle, taking all the information they need, and they're working in coordination with him as well. to make sure that this is consistent with the vision that council has. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, Councilman.
Sorry, just one more suggestion too. Zuri, in the past, when developers or even somebody who wants to open a small business has gone into the development services, the questions aren't being answered or can't be answered. So I would suggest that we hire somebody that understands exactly what we're doing here, so that when a developer walks into development services and says, hey, I'm going to buy this whole block, what can I do with it, right? Instead of them walking in there and not knowing exactly what the plan is for development in the district. So for the 30 years that I've been here, it's always been an issue trying to get the proper information from whomever the department is. And I think we need to have a liaison that will help guide the interested parties, whether it's just a question or they're actually going to buy an entire city block, that they know exactly what they're getting into, what the process is going to be, the timing. You know, as Mr. Milo said, the plan's in place, but if nobody knows what the plan is, nobody can walk them down that path. So I think that's going to be extremely important, so that when they do come, we can capture them and they can help develop and build up the city. Thank you, sir.
Advice well taken, sir.
So my view is this is a tremendous concept, and we do need to define and design those guardrails and the ingredients of what we want in our community, and even defining the different architectural styles. However, there are a lot of devils in these details for a package that we received on Friday that others have had 6 months to look at. So let me just be really plain spoken. If somebody were to ask me tonight to adopt this plan, my vote would have to be no, because that big devil of density of up to 60 units per acre is buried in this package. And I am not at all interested in sending any message that we are talking about that kind of density. Look, the fact that a mega $1 million transaction was just completed in downtown Homestead for a social service provider tells me that the money downtown and the development community still looks at us as just Homestead. That we've got to send the message loud and clear that you need to bring the caliber of product that you would bring to Pinecrest, Coral Gables, Palmetto Bay, wherever else. That's what we expect here. That's what I want from this plan. To turn a phrase from Mayor Bell, I am not going to support letting the camel get that nose of high density, which is always equated to subsidized apartments, anywhere near this area. So I would like to take the angle tonight, and I took this in my council briefing, is that how do we safeguard from the infiltration of more uses that are incompatible with our vision while we work to adopt the final form? That would be my concern. I don't want to use the M word because I don't think, but kind of making that analogy, how can we do anything to safeguard more incompatible uses, more properties being acquired, and incompatible but currently permitted uses? How can we prevent that while we finish formulating this plan? So I'd look to Mr. Valle, Mr. Hennis, our city attorney. I think that's the tack I would like to take tonight. Give this our vote of confidence that yes, let's move forward with this concept and understand that there are a lot of little fly specks in here to be addressed, but how do we protect ourselves? That's my question to staff. Mr. Valle?
In anticipation of that question, what we've done in other places, what I did in the booklet, and you'll notice I don't not mention 60 units an acre, even though it allows 6 stories high because it's permitted in the city. What we've done in other places when we've done studies like this, we'll say, hey, okay, we've got 245 acres of land. We're allowed 30 units an acre, which is what's permitted in the code today, spread over those acreage. That gives a certain density, and that's what we limit within that development area, and that way you control. So when we illustrated that in 3D, we were thinking about all those ideas. That's why we said, okay, this whole thing isn't all going to be 6 stories because it's not. We're gonna treat it as 30 units an acre spread over this time. That gives me so many units, and now I'm going to go ahead and balance it all off based on its location and based on a number of different issues, and that's how we control it. That's how you take. That's how you say, okay, that's how you do it.
That's how we spread the density, or as Mayor Porter used to say, the peanut butter of density, you spread it around.
That's how you get, that's why that overall master plan that we did, that model, isn't just all 6 stories across. No, it's because it was designed in us understanding we were limiting it to 30 units an acre, which is what I know you were at.
So, okay, but more to my point, how do we begin? Where do we begin? How do we begin to build in safeguards while we finalize this plan and codify form-based code or whatever you want to
within each one of the overlay districts, they have its own limitations as well. So that's how you control it. So we say we have an overall for the district, overall for the 245 acres, but within each sub-district has certain limitations, and that's how you control it, because we want certain areas to be a certain height, other areas to be higher because it's appropriate. And so that's how we did it in the code.
But
we thought that through.
But right now, we have a code that's very antiquated that still calls for telegraph offices and haberdasheries that allows uses that are incompatible with this plan. Those changes don't happen quickly or inexpensively. So pending those changes and the creation of a code to implement this, how do we prevent more incompatible uses from coming in, or we don't? I mean, currently permitted, but in terms of vision, incompatible uses. That's what I don't want to say.
I think you're really hitting on one of the important points of trying to protect the intent of the charrette in a lot of ways, I believe, especially on first floor uses, where right now we allow a varied list of first floor uses along Chrome Avenue, where it really should be limited to retail types of uses and restaurants and things of that nature. So you're not getting the incompatible uses that is occupying your really intensive spaces that really begin to make it a marketing area that really means something. People begin to frequent it more because it becomes your unknown park areas because it's walkability and it becomes a park in a roundabout way. So that's really the most important task. One of the most important tasks that we need to do is we need to protect those first floor uses to be something that's actually what we want there, as opposed to office uses, medical uses, and things of that nature.
Okay, and most of the buildings right now are one story. So where do we go from here?
I think we can certainly work with legal and Eric in terms of coming up with some options for us along those lines to begin to rebuild that importance of what downtown, Main Street, and the charrette as a whole area really are and mean to the future in terms of use types of categories and things of that nature.
So, and I agree, each segment is kind of a standalone thing. And I would foresee that we're maybe, in terms of getting our heads around it, we're going to do each section as a standalone conversation so that we don't confuse, that we focus on this and then move to the next. So I guess what you've got tonight is a consensus to move forward to begin implementing the conceptual foundation of this proposal. Any objections to that? Okay. Mr. Pearl, you good?
Just for clarification. Is it, no, you raised some reservations about the master plan itself, which is technically the first step in this process, is once that's adopted, the comp plan and then the land development regulations will follow. Are you comfortable with us starting to prepare something for the acceptance of the master plan, the formal adoption of it, or do you need to further explore changes that you'd like to see to the master plan? Because once we adopt that, then we're going to start building from that space. So I'm just trying to clarify. You had expressed some reservations where you want to go.
Well, would perhaps the easiest route be you begin to draft and you bring forward in some venue an adoption of a master plan, and that's when we then begin to talk about heights, densities, setbacks, parking,
yes,
so forth.
That would be
probably fine. That kind of the first informal round upstairs around the conference table, rather than here in this more formal and confined setting. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's. Is that okay?
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Is there anything further for this workshop? None appearing then, do we have a motion to adjourn the workshop? Moved by Councilman Roth, second by Councilman Cannibal. All in favor, aye. And in 5 minutes, we will adjourn the special call council meeting. Thank you all. All right, let's get ready to rumble with a special call. Okay, very good. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call to order the City of Homestead City Council Special Call Meeting. Today is November 12th, 2024, and it is 6:11 p.m. We have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Davis?
Here.
Councilman Ron? Here. Councilman Cannonball?
Here.
Councilwoman Bailey? Here. Councilwoman Avila?
Here.
Mayor Losner?
Here. All right, are there any additions, deletions, or deferrals, Mr. Manager?
None, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Moving on to item 1, tab 1.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, tab 1 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the turf and landscape maintenance agreement between the City of Homestead and the Florida Department of Transportation, providing for implementation, authorizing renewal, and providing for an effective date.
Very good, thank you. Staff report.
So, Mr. Mayor, Council, this item had previously been presented to Council, and it was withdrawn to enable us to have conversation with the State Department of Transportation because we felt a disproportionate sharing of costs. We reached out to the FDOT District Secretary, had some negotiation meetings, and the item, they did a slight increase in their contribution to the maintenance of the city roadways. Previously, they were willing to give us about $26,000, and they've adjusted the number upwards to about $29,000, rounded up. So this is the maintenance of US 1 from Southwest 304th Street to 328, Chrome Avenue from Northwest 21st Street to 328, and Campbell Drive from Chrome Avenue to US 1. It includes litter pickup, mowing, including edging and weed control, maintenance for about 12 times in a year, for a total of $28,932. The total budgeted amount for this contract with Brightview is $82,790. So the state is contributing 35% of the total cost. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, sir. Council, questions, comments? Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very happy to hear that, they're sharing the cost with us, and anything that we can do to improve the conditions of those areas is really important. The litter is just out of control, and that's been an ongoing issue. So I appreciate staff continuing to make it a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, and kind of to echo that, I think part of it is the type of landscaping. It catches the litter. That's wrong. All right, let me open the public hearing really quick. Anyone wishing to speak on this resolution? Close the public hearing. Moved by Councilman Roth, seconded by Councilwoman Avila. Roll call.
Councilman Cannonball? Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Ron? Councilwoman Bailey? Councilwoman Avila? Mayor Losner?
Yes.
The motion carries.
And the next item, tab 2, car number 4438, JD Red Park Tennis and Pickleball Improvements. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tab 2 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, authorizing a purchase transaction for the City of Homestead Parks and Recreation Department with Armor Courts, Inc. for tennis and pickleball court improvements at JD Red Park, recognizing applicable exemptions from engaging competitive bidding pursuant to City Code Section 2-411.1A5, exemptions from competitive bidding, based upon Palm Beach County School Board contract, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date.
Very good. Mr. Manager, anything further?
So this item is actually APA funds, and is required to be obligated by December 31st this year. So time is of the essence. So we're asking council to approve the item to enable the improvements at JD Red Park, which is inclusive of providing 6 new dedicated pickleball courts, 6 new dedicated tennis courts, and 6 blended line pickleball courts. For time for completion, 90 days from the initiation and receipt of the PO. Is for $131,515. APA funded.
Very good. Thank you. Council? Moved by Councilman Alva, seconded by Councilman Roth. Any public comment? All right. Close the public hearing. Roll call.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Cannapol? Yes. Councilman Roth? Councilwoman Bailey? Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Mayor Lawson?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to tab 3, car number 4429. This is award number 2024-39, Cybarium Restrooms and Elevator Construction rebid. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tab 3 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, awarding ITB 2024-39 Cybarium Restrooms and Elevator Construction Project to Versetti Enterprises, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for the project, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Mr. Manager?
So this item is also one of those pre-approved APA funding. It's for the Cybarium, for the restrooms and the elevator construction. The contractor is a local Miami-Dade County small business enterprise project contract. And we received 6 submittals. And out of that 6, we were able to get this contractor as the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. Out of the solicitation that was sent out, the OpenGov Analytics revealed that the classification of at least 100 vendors were women-owned businesses, and 166 were minority business enterprises that actually received these bids. Unfortunately, only 6 of those responded in writing. So we're asking council to approve this bid and also for the award to be approved for $723,000 with a 10% overage for contingencies.
Good. We have a motion to approve? Moved by Cannonball, seconded by Roth. Public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter? I'm going to close the public hearing, and Councilman Roth, comment?
Yes. Originally, I thought this was going to be a little bit more expensive. Did you guys save money somewhere? Because I thought it was like close to $1 million for this project.
Yes, remember when we pivoted to using the OpenGov, it expanded the horizon of responses you get. Previously in the past, we used to get like 1 or 2 bids. For you to have 102 vendors that are women-owned, 166 that are minority-owned, receive the bids. It's a huge universe of interested vendors, and which we received 6 good bids, and for 6 bids to be received for this type of solicitation, I think it's a huge number, and we're able to save some money.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So it's been moved and seconded, right? Okay. Let's have a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilman Davis? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? Yes. Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Councilman Cannavone? Yes. Mayor Lawson?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, next item, tab 4, car number 4447, Keysgate 2 Development.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Tab 4 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, authorizing city staff to execute the documents required by the appropriate regulatory agencies for the certification of the water and wastewater system serving Keysgate 2 project, accepting ownership of components of Keysgate 2 utility infrastructure, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Mr. Manager.
So this item is one of those special items that we are fully in support of. The Miami-Dade County DERM, in order to sign off on the certificate of occupancy, requires a public utility to take ownership of the infrastructure. They don't allow privately held subdivisions or CDD or HOAs to be responsible for ownership. So we are in support of moving forward with taking control, receiving it from Lennar Homes, in order to facilitate the issuance of the CO for them. Time is of the essence because really we want this, I think it's about quite a number of units to be in the tax roll by the end of the year.
200 units, is that correct, Mr. Arza?
Good evening, Hugh Arza, 701 Brickell Avenue. I'm joined by Phil Sorati and Viola Portella of Lennar Homes. Correct. So far as hoping by month's end to deliver about 200 homes, so 300 families moving into Homestead. We've got a couple of last steps, and I want to thank the manager and the attorney, all of their staffs for getting this item on quickly so that we can get the certification signed, get back to Durham, get back here, get the COs, get these families moved in quickly, and continue with the project. So, if you have any other questions, otherwise, thank you all for your support.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manager. We have a motion. Moved by Councilman Avila. Second by Cannonball with a question by Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. So, as we try to figure out how to streamline our processes, right? Would this, or could this be an administrative process? Because we didn't have a meeting scheduled tonight, we would have had to call a special call meeting for this meeting as well, which when we found out about this incident, it was last week sometime, which regardless of who the developer is at the time, time is of the essence. And I'm just curious, is it something that we can do administratively without having to bring it to council? Because eventually we're going to accept it anyways, right?
So I think the easiest thing for us to do, which we are working on, is to do a code amendment. The letter and the spirit of the current code says it should be done through, that the city cannot accept utilities on private property. So in order to go around that, we need a legislative action from council. So my recommendation, which the city attorney is working on, is to come back with legislative amendments to change the code so it can be handled administratively.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you, Jerry.
Very good. And I love the fact that they've heard, a lot of folks have heard my calls to let's, at the end of the year, get things on the tax rolls for our benefit, the benefit of our taxpayers next year. And I apologize in advance if my recollection is not clear. But I recall that several months ago, we directed some legislation to be drafted to come back to enable these, let's say the 1,300 units that we approved in Keysgate, to allow them to have, or to remove them from public solid waste services. That those cohesive neighborhoods would in effect be privatized. That prevents us from having to buy more very expensive trucks and hire more crews. So that has not yet come before us, and this is, 200, but 200 is a lot of additional customers that we are now going to have to service. I mean, it's about another 1,100 left, but I guess quickly my question is what happened with that? Is my recollection not clear? Why haven't we gone forward with that?
We've gone back and forth quite a bit with, on the drafts of the ordinance, creating the franchises. I think the latest draft was just circulated last week. Crystal's nodding in approval. So I think we're just about there. It has, while we got into the process, it turned into, well, can we fix all these other things while we're touching this? And so it's kind of turned into a larger rewrite of the solid waste code section to cover a wide range of things, including the provision for franchises for the types of developments that you had discussed.
So, though, if these COs are issued before, obviously they're going to be issued before we are able to enact this, and they're going to expect public services. Are we pretty much out of luck with those 200 that they'll, and I get that this is kind of a separated portion of that final approval that, in terms of geography, it's separated. It's just something I would like to have the opportunity to do. But thank you for the explanation. I hope we can get that in place before the next batch of COs.
I have a question to go with that too, because even though we may be servicing those 200 units prior to any agreements we make for solid waste franchising, couldn't we offer that out as part of the package to franchise those 200 units? I mean, just because we're servicing them, we could offer them out.
Can we unilaterally change their provider?
We force them to privatize, and
right,
because that's what we're going to draw the line of demarcation. The question when we started that conversation was always, where are we going to draw the line? What types of properties, what types of developments? if you would like, I can go back and take a look at, originally it was a line in the sand at time, but if you're interested, I'm happy to go and see if we can expand beyond a line in the sand in terms of a particular date and assign it to particular projects, of developments that meet a certain criteria.
And then, presumably most of our residential customers now are billed one time as a non-ad valorem item on the tax bills that just came out. So are we now going to have to go back or implement monthly billing for these 200 new customers until we get them on the tax rolls next August? When the tax bill for, the November tax bill.
Mayor, yes, that is how we have addressed properties that come online after the tax bills.
Okay. So
come
that
on.
system's in place now?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Very good, thank you. All right, do we have a motion and a second on that? Did we? I think we did, yeah. It was Roth and Cannonball. All right. We have a public hearing. We did now. Close the public hearing. Anything further from council? All right, let's have a roll call vote, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Avila? Yes. Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilman Cannibal? Yes. Mayor Lawson?
Yes.
The motion carried.
All right, that concludes the business for the special call on this agenda. Mr. Manager, is there anything further?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Attorney, do you need to call? No? Okay, very good. And I'll ask for a motion and a second to adjourn this special call meeting. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. So give us just a second to move into the committee of the whole. Sit tight, no break. Both of you. I'm going to put Velcro in your seats. When we get our new chairs, I'll put Velcro in your seats. Okay. All right, very good. All right. I'd like to call the City of Homestead Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and it is now 6:28 p.m. We have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey? Here. Councilwoman Avila? Here. Councilman Davis?
Here.
Councilman Roth? Here. Councilman Cannibal? Here. Mayor Lawson?
Here.
The mo.
All right, very good. The roll call carried, right? All in favor of the roll call. It's been a long week. Okay. Are there any additions, deletions, or deferrals?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Our first item of business is tab 1, the approval of the October 8th, 2024 Committee of the Whole minutes. We have moved by Councilman Ross, second by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next item, tab 2, and this is a motion to place car number 4427 on the council agenda, submission of an annual report by city grantees. Mr. Manager.
So this, thanks to Councilwoman Erica Avila for taking the leadership on this. This is one of those process improvement measures that we've adopted. It will require recipients of city grants, programmatic grants, to provide and prepare and also come to council to present annual reports that details their performance standards, as well as the use of the awarded funds, including a breakdown of expenditures, descriptions of funded activities, and evidence of alignment with community purposes as proposed or proposed in the grants. We'd love to have this passed so that we can start off by developing a standard operating procedure, as well as establishing performance metrics that will guide each individual grantees. It's not going to be a one-shot SOP. It's going to be tailored specific to each grant because they're all different. Thank you again, Councilwoman Avila. So the administration is urging the council to approve this because it's going to promote transparency, financial accountability, and responsible stewardship of public funds.
Good, thank you, sir. Councilwoman Avila, I give you the privilege of speaking and making the motion on this item.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think most importantly, it's to also help advertise the impact and the services that we are investing in as a board here. So I really want to give thanks to staff for guiding this reso, and I will make the motion to approve it. Thank you.
All right, do we have a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All right. It was her turn. You're in the minutes more than she is already. All right. Is there any public comment on this item? Not appearing, I'll close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is tab 3. This is a motion to place car number 4413 on the council agenda, RFP 2024-16, Community Development Block Grant Program for STEM Services for fiscal year 23-24. Is that correct? That's what's in the agenda, 23-24?
Yes.
Should be 24-25.
It should be 24-25.
24-25, okay. Mr. Manager.
So I'm going to ask my finance director to guide us through the process of understanding the background to this item. Mr. Carlos.
Good evening. For the last several years, we've had the STEM program as part of the CDBG action plan. This is actually for the 23-24 action plan. We had set aside $100,000. We put out an RFP. We received 3 proposals. One was not worth moving forward. The other 2, the committee felt that both were good proposals and that they were different. One was providing more like kits with volunteers, which we've been doing in the last couple of years. And then the new proposal was more of a curriculum base with certified teachers. So we thought that it would be a good balance. So the recommendation of the committee was to split the $100,000 and award $50,000 to each of the proposers. And I believe each one is represented here tonight.
Okay, so if they are, come forward and identify yourselves by which organization you're representing. Quickly, just want to have the record reflect that you were here.
Hi, my name is Zarina Dimova, and I am the principal and also founder of the Preparatory Academy. So we are a nonprofit private school that has been servicing the city of Homestead since 2012. I grew up in Homestead, so I opened up a school here to service predominantly the students that were low income, and I have been able to service over 3,000 students that have come to my school, K through 8. I also work with the state of Florida, and I provide supplemental educational services. So I've done that throughout the state of Florida, where we provide tutoring for reading and math. We also started doing STEM, so we do that with different counties. This is all for students. It used to be low-income students, but now, since it's school choice, we give it to all students as long as they qualify, depending on the test score that they got on their class test. So basically, I work with nothing but research-based curriculum. I have all certified teachers. I am a special ed teacher as well, so my background is in exceptional student education. I'm finishing my doctorate in educational leadership. So I work really well with making sure that my students all receive any accommodations or modifications that they need. Now in Homestead, I've dealt with a lot of students that are ESOL. So they're coming from Cuba. I have a huge population of students that have come from Cuba. And I've never seen the need that I see now. Because I've always worked with Mexican-American students or other students that come because of migrant families. But now with the Cubans that have been coming, I've been seeing a big, big need of not only just providing, if they come with the knowledge, because academically they're strong, but it's the language. So I've seen that as well. But with the STEM program, what we're proposing to do is service the students that live within the city of Homestead, which is already what we service, but we want to make sure that we service all students within the city of Homestead, not just students from my school, making sure we open it up to the whole community. We have all of my teachers live within the city of Homestead. I also have volunteers that work with me, and I directly work with Miami-Dade College. Right now we're working on becoming a site for their teachers and interns. So I'm just really looking forward to making sure that I can provide this service at a more academic standpoint, looking at the students' weaknesses and their strengths, and just making sure they improve those academic skills they need in STEM.
Thank you for coming. All right, is the other organization represented? So we had two, right? Hi, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon O'Polaby. I'm blessed to be the founder of Live Your Dream, where we focus on sparking social change through STEM and recreational education. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for the past, I believe, 4 years. We have been awarded this grant and have been allowed to come into the Homestead community and really engage all youth, just making sure that they have a love for STEM, but also showing them STEM in a fun, educational way. Our programs that we are slated to do this year will be Dream Academy, which is our after-school program, which runs every day. So kids will be engaged in STEM after school every day at a couple locations. We've also done STEM Saturdays, so we are working with the Librarium, FICA Williams, and have a conversation with 2 other locations where kids can come on the weekends and engage in STEM. So some of the fun projects that they do are rockets, solar rovers, dissecting sheep lungs and building mechanical lungs. So one thing that we do is really teach them about the STEM profession. My background is I am from New Orleans, went to University of Miami, majored in electrical engineering and also computer information systems. I was blessed to host a show called Hands on STEM on Discovery Education for 3 years during the pandemic. So STEM is definitely involved in everything that I do from a child. And so just making sure that kids have this opportunity. So again, thank you for this opportunity and hope to see you all in our events.
Thank you. All right, so as an example, would these allocations that we're presumably about to approve, are they going to fall under the last item or an earlier item tonight? Or do they fall under a separate set of federal auditing guidelines, or both?
I mean, the request that you're asking is more at the local level, so if that's what council wants, then they would fall under that, and they would be required to provide those reports, yes.
Very good. That's what I want to hear. Thank you. All right. Do you have any public? Go ahead. Well, I was just going to take public comment. All right, we'll close public comment. Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say real quick to Divya, I know that every time I run into you and every time that we come across this grant, I mean, those first couple STEM Saturdays with Councilwoman Fairclough, it was just so exciting to see that at FICA Williams. But then the pandemic hits, and you mailing kits out and doing the virtual meetings is what completely sold me on you guys. It was entertaining my children. I was sharing it with the links to my older preschoolers. So I just want to thank you very much for the last 4 years. And to you, we worked together on a few little things in 2012. I started my school then too. It was usually online, so I don't think we ever met in person. But please, we, just as Councilwoman Avila just said, we're interested in seeing those statistics. Invite us out to your school. Let us see what you're doing, because that helps us be bigger cheerleaders for you the following year. Thank you.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to ask Finance, maybe you have it in the report. Is there can we quantify the impact? How many students, how many children can we serve through this grant?
I don't want to speak out of turn, but if I recall correctly, I think Villa might have been like 66. And I don't know if with Dibby in the past, it's been like maybe 300. So I see nodding of the head, so.
Thank you. It's quite a lot of kids to serve year-round in this type of investment, so thank you so much.
Okay. So do we have a motion? Moved by Avila, seconded by Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving right along. We are now on tab 4, right? This is a motion to place car number 4436 on the council agenda, the provision of Wi-Fi at our public parks. Mr. Manager.
So I'm going to ask Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Good afternoon, Council. So this project is a part of the previously approved ARPA list. We have identified 15 parks. All of 13 is included in this breakdown. So we will be We're proposing to council to approve the purchase of hardware that is required for the installation of Wi-Fi throughout the parks. The only two parks that are not included in this proposal is the Homestead Regional Park, because we are programming the Wi-Fi component as a part of the larger initiative, as well as the Biscayne Everglades Greenway Trail. We have submitted a grant application that, should we receive those grant dollars, we would be able to do the infrastructure installation and then incorporate the Wi-Fi component. So we respectfully request council's approval. Should it be approved, we will have Wi-Fi in the parks, my IT department tells me, by July, so summer of next year. That would be the completion of this particular initiative.
Very good, thank you. Any questions from council? All right, I'll move it. Councilman Cannonball? Moved by Councilman Cannonball. Seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. Any public comment? Yeah, I'll close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? And next time, tab 5. This is a motion to place car number 4426 on the agenda, the Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program grant. Mr. Manager, do we have a report on that?
So this item is actually good for the city. We are receiving $200,000 for a project that is estimated to cost $536,000 of improvements at Blakey Park. And improvements include a new playground facility. The current playground is so low that it kind of there's always ponding and flooding of water. So the intention here is to elevate it a little bit so that we will not have that experience, so that it can be available for use all year round, as well as a new shade structure and new PIP safety surfacing to be done on the entire park. Is for $536,000, and we anticipated completion by the summer of 2025 in time for use during the summertime.
Very good. Councilwoman Bailey, would you like to move it?
Yeah, just one quick question. So with the whole park master plan piece, this isn't the original things that we were looking at when we were considering the park master plan, or am I mistaken?
So, Councilwoman Bailey, this is in line with the changes recommended by the master plan. So this playground is moving locations from where they are currently in that center of the track over towards the Pal Gym side, in order that we can demolish those structures in the center of the track and eventually move towards that being an athletic field as was identified in the master plan.
Okay, so this is next to the Pal Gym side. It's not the middle of
Yes,
the
that's
track.
correct.
Okay, perfect. Then so moved.
Sorry. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Moving right along to tab 6. This is a motion to place car number 4424 on the council agenda. Traffic control jurisdictional agreement with East Homestead Community Development District. Mr. Manager.
So this is a simple housekeeping item for PD. It's simply asking for permission to conduct a traffic control services within a CDD, the East Homestead CDD. So I don't think this is controversial. This is something we do all the time. So this is simply for your blessing, sir.
Thank you, sir. Moved by Councilman Ross, seconded by Councilwoman Avila. Third by you. That's your district. Okay. So we got strong support. Okay. Any public comment? Yeah, I'll close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? This is tab 7. And this is a discussion item. Our number 4434, the installation of temporary construction fences with screening.
So thank you again, Councilman Avila, for spearheading this. This is one of those best practices that we want to bring to Homestead in terms of making sure that the permit that we have for stormwater management, what we call pollution control measures, dust control, as well as ancillary impacts on roadways from major construction sites to install perimeter fences with some kind of screen to prevent dust, debris, and pebbles from being transferred and deposited on public streets, as well as additional measures in terms of making sure that our drainage systems are not negatively impacted by construction activities. This is a discussion item. We are asking for direction to come back with the actual legislation that will have all these bells and whistles properly outlined. Currently, we are in discussion with Miami-Dade County, Durham, in terms of the stormwater pollution prevention plan for the city. So this will form the basis of that and also be one of those legislative support that we need to demonstrate that the city is ahead of the curve in terms of being compliant. So we're asking that you guys give us the direction to proceed and come back at the next council meeting with the actual ordinance for first reading.
Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to our city manager. The reality is that as the construction is going on, we have to protect our drainages, we have to protect our roadways, but also it is unsightly to see the construction going on. And so it is a visual blight as construction is occurring. And so not that I want to use the Estates project as an example, but they are currently developing and there's no fencing, nothing to showcase what's to come or give you some kind of visual reference on what's there. But those are some exciting projects that are going to be built out at the Estates on Campbell Drive. And then whereas the plot next door to it has some fencing and some protection. So I noticed the inconsistency, and when I asked staff about it, it's not in our code. So it's one of those things that we've got to fix our code, and this would be helping to do that. So I appreciate the support from my colleagues, and thank you, staff, once again.
Absolutely. Yes. Councilwoman Bailey?
Thank you, Mayor. Definitely great idea. I know that downtown, anytime downtown Miami has any new development, they always have those protective fences that show a picture of what's to come. So as you're adding this in the language, that might be a good one to look at to see what their requirements are.
Councilwoman?
Mayor, thank you. Just one clarification. My intent is also not to burden, individuals who are building a single-family home or in creating a home for themselves. This would impact development communities. Okay, so just to clarify, thank you.
Well, development communities and commercial projects. Right. I don't know that we want to get way out in the weeds on mandating kind of artwork, if you will, as to what's going to be on the screen, but, at least not prohibit that. We're not going to require it, but if you want to spend the money to do it, by all means, go ahead and do that. So do we have a solid direction, unanimous direction to staff and the attorneys to draft that legislation and bring it back? All right, nobody opposed. Very good, thank you. And finally, tab 8, car number 4415, the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Finance Director.
Good evening. The purpose of the item is to advise the city of the NSP properties and our plans for moving forward, what our next steps are. Brief history, back in 2009, we received $2.8 million to purchase NSP properties. Basically, the intent was to stabilize the communities with high rates of abandoned and foreclosed properties. With that money, the city purchased 15 homes. Out of the 15 homes, 10 were sold. The other 5 that remained unsold were deeded to a nonprofit that existed at the time called Galata. Several months after that agreement was initiated, staff realized that their program was more transient housing and it didn't fit with what CDBG programming was supposed to be, so we initiated the termination of the contract. Even though we terminated the contract and even though the properties were supposed to be deeded back to the city immediately, it took 2 years for us to get those properties back. So moving forward to where we are now, of the 5 properties that are remaining, there's one located on 105 Northeast 17th Street, which is near the Dickinson Community Center. That property always looked like it would be unaffordable for anybody of very low to moderate income. It's a big house on a big lot. In addition to that, recently the HUD put out their census tracts, and that house is no longer on those census tracts. So basically, it's ineligible to move forward with it. So what we'd like to do with that one is to be able to put it on the market. And we'll work with legal, whatever the process is that we need to do. I'm assuming that it would be sealed bids. And basically what will happen is when that money, the proceeds from that sale, $216,000 off the bat would have to go back to HUD to make up for the purchase of that property and for the rehab on that property, because we're not using it for its intended purposes. The remaining funds we want to be able to use to rehab the existing remaining properties. Now here's where we have two options. The first option is we hope that there's enough proceeds to basically rehab all four of the properties. Two of the properties are in the CRA. If there's a shortfall, we're going to probably lean to our friends in the CRA to maybe come to our help and be able to provide some assistance with those rehabs. That's option one. The second option is CRA is working currently with a developer that's doing the affordable housing, and the idea would be to deed those two properties over to them. We don't know if there'll be an appetite for them to do that or not. So again, there's two options there. We'll know more after we basically put the other house on the market and we get the proceeds. Then we'll know which step to probably move forward with. But that's where we stand now. So again, so advise council, because a lot of these items will be coming back to you for council action.
Let me ask you, Carlos, I understand we have an appraisal pending for 105.
Pending.
Appraisal pending. We all know that that house was occupied by a squatter for many, many years.
Yes, sir.
And after that individual left, numerous other squatters have made themselves at home.
Not at that one. Not that I'm aware of.
City employees live across the street, and they share with me, and I've passed along to this manager and prior manager, and the police department has had to help revacate the property, and our people have had to re-secure it. My point being is, yes, if that house were ready to go, put the key in the front door and move in right now, it would probably be a $600,000 house. Is that appraisal going to show us an estimate? I understand as is. There's probably a lot of work to be done there. It's a really nice location, though.
It's a very, very big lot. So again, the land alone may be worth part of the money. But again, our goal is to do it as is. We can always ask, even though they're going to be sealed bids, we could try to put a minimum on what the lowest bid can be. That's one way to try to guarantee how much we get.
Do we have the ability to create a preference for city employees who may want to buy it and rehab it, or it's got to be pure open market?
I think that's a fantastic idea to kind of
I've been approached
explore.
by two different city employees who are aware of this property.
So my take on this is to ensure that it's not going to be used for commercial purpose by the city employee if we were to go that route.
For their primary residence.
So I don't know whether the HUD requirements will allow us to preclude buyers, because it's federal funds. Federal funds usually have limitations as to what you can do with it.
Not under what we're doing, though.
It's
Because
not.
we're putting it on the market. The whole idea is we're going to be giving back the money to HUD. Therefore, it's
No,
the city's
the
property.
question is, can we limit the sale to only city employees? That's what the issue is.
Or give priority or preference, whatever the correct word would be.
I don't know. We have an attorney here who can opine on that.
Let's determine that.
I'm happy to take a look, but I can't speak to the HUD guideline and covering the program.
Well,
I know
we're
program income
buying
from
our
the
way
disposition.
out of the HUD
Yes, no,
restrictions
I know.
on that one.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
And program income is required to go back to HUD under the CFRs. That question's never been posed, so I'm happy to take a look and see if we can find a way to
Let's
make
do
that
that
happen.
and see if we can build that
Sure.
in some fashion. Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to know also if a potential buyer who, let's say, is a first-time home buyer, were to make an offer to purchase using some kind of renovation type loans, which do exist for first-time home buyers. There's FHA, 203Ks, things like that. Could we participate in with our down payment assistance program to assist? Is that one in the CRA? No, that one's not. So it would have to kind of be part of our larger homestead down payment assistance program, which we haven't launched, but maybe perhaps for this property because we own it, maybe we could. I'd like to know if we could approve down payment assistance for this particular this transaction if it were to be for a first-time home buyer. So you don't have to answer now, but when you're coming back and exploring the options for, as the mayor requested, I'd like to know as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So, do you all have what you need from us in terms of marching orders?
Thank you.
No. You can't say that. No. Turn off your microphone. Okay. All right. Mr. Manager, anything further?
I think just a quick housekeeping item. I think the Chick-fil-A outlet is opening tomorrow morning, and they're asking council and the public to feel free to join them tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning at the location on Campbell Drive. Okay. Thanks. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Attorney? Yes, Councilwoman?
All right, one more thing. I wanted to continue to thank our staff for assisting me with my D5 project. It's amazing what some pressure washing and some filler plants can do to some medians to kind of brighten up the area. So thank you for that. And I encourage my colleagues to consider trying to find little areas in your district that maybe we could partner with our landscaping provider to do the same in your district. Thank you.
Good. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Moved and seconded. Good night, everyone. Thank you.